first thing I want to say is Hong Kong, Si Doi Gak Ming. Can you hear me? Hong Kong, Si Doi Gak Ming. It's a great privilege to be here this evening. And I want to say, first of all, that I've come specially from London to be with you in Manchester today, just for this occasion. Some of you might ask, why am I not speaking in the protest in London? Why have I come to Manchester? And my answer to that is, firstly, I speak in many protests for Hong Kong in London. But this is a struggle that is not confined either to the streets of Hong Kong or to the protests of London, but to the streets and the corridors of power and every arena that we have across the free world. Because this is a fight not only for the freedom and human rights and dignity and rule of law and autonomy of Hong Kong and Hong Kongers. It is a fight for freedom itself, a fight for freedom against tyranny, and a fight that every one of us who believes in freedom should be engaged with. So that's why I've come to Manchester to be with you today. Should I pause for a bit of translation? I'm sorry. I will hand the microphone over just for what I've said already to be interpreted, and then I'll say a bit more. 唔好意思，其實我唔係咁識翻譯，如果有朋友識得翻譯可以請佢哋上嚟嘅。咁呢位先生就Benedict Rogers，佢專登由倫敦上嚟嘅。咁咧佢就話，即係佢點解要專登上嚟咧？佢覺得係十分之重要啦。因為唔係淨係喺倫敦係需要有呢度支持嘅，同埋係即係要一齊前去唔同嘅地方。Sorry, I will try to speak shorter and slower now. When I was invited to come to Manchester tonight a few weeks ago, I said yes immediately. In the last few days, because of the surge in the COVID-19 pandemic, several times I asked the question, should I still come? But I thought, no, this is too important. This is about the fight for freedom for the entire world, and especially at this particular time for the 12 courageous Hong Kong youth. 咁咧呢位先生咧，就有朋友去請佢上嚟咧，佢諗都唔諗就即刻已經答應佢上嚟，因為佢覺得係好重要，用呢個時間去注意呢12嘅年輕嘅小朋友。I'm sorry that I cannot say much more in Cantonese except Hong Kong Si Doi Gak Ming, which is why I need my friend here to interpret the rest of what I say. So that's why I've come to Manchester. For those of you who don't know, I'll just say very briefly that I'm committed to this fight for Hong Kong, both because I believe in freedom, but also because Hong Kong was once my home. And although I do not live there anymore, and as many of you know, I cannot go there anymore, at least until it is free, Hong Kong will always live on in my heart. 咁呢個先生咧，佢咧其實唔係淨係去支持民主啊呢啲活動嘅，佢覺得係十分之重要支持香港嘅，因為其實香港都係佢嘅屋企，佢以前都喺香港住，但係可能大家都好清楚，佢而家其實翻唔到香港嘅，翻唔到咧都好，佢香港都係一直都係好似佢屋企咁樣喺個心嗰度。I lived in Hong Kong for the first 5 years after the handover, from 1997 to 2002. And when I left Hong Kong in 2002, I never imagined that we would see the day that we see today of Hong Kong's freedoms, autonomy, the rule of law being destroyed in so many ways, but most dramatically by the recent national security law. And I never expected to see the day where people would be fleeing Hong Kong by boat and ending up in jail in mainland China.
呢位先生佢係喺香港由1997年至到2002年嘅，覺得佢就幾 surprise 好驚奇，係好驚訝啊！定咁驚訝咧？即係香港係變成佢人喺1997年去到2002年都喺香港住。喺2002年離開香港嘅時候，從來冇諗過香港嘅自治、法治居然會喺呢個咁戲劇性咁樣消失，尤其是喺近期呢一個國安法嘅影響底下，估唔到香港人居然需要利用去到搭洗頭艇去逃難、去走難，更加係因為咁樣而被送中嘅。
6 years ago, when the umbrella movement happened in Hong Kong, and by the way, whenever I go to any event in Hong Kong, I always carry my yellow umbrella. When the umbrella movement happened, I knew that I had to speak out for Hong Kong. And I started to speak out and campaign personally. And then 3 years later, 3 years ago, in 2017, I knew that we needed an organization, and that's when I founded Hong Kong Watch.
6年之前喺呢個雨傘革命發生嘅時候，我就開始好密切注意呢一個香港各式各樣嘅民主活動，直至到去到3年前，去到2007年之後，佢就覺得係應該要有一個。我覺得香港應該有一個組織喺度統籌呢啲活動，因為一路之前佢都用自己個人嘅身份去參與，但係我覺得應該成立一個組織去搞呢啲運動會更加好嘅。
That was 3 years ago, but over the last year, with all the terrible events in Hong Kong, the police brutality, the courageous protests, the national security law, I knew that what was at one time something that I was trying to do in my spare time, I knew that I had to give more time to it. And so this week, this last Monday, I began a new role with Hong Kong Watch as the full-time chief executive, because I want to give this struggle much more of my time. I still have other things I'm doing as well, but I am now devoted the vast majority of my time to this struggle. 咁呢位先生咧，佢咧其實啱啱咧升咗嗰個 Chief Executive Role for 嗰個香港嗰個書名叫咩話？香港觀察係啦，多謝曬，香港觀察嘅。咁佢而家係仲更加花多啲時間 full time 去支持去幫香港嘅。其實咧，我唔記得講一樣嘢咧，佢好重要嘅，因為咧佢咧係其實可以影響到咧我哋呢個英國嗰個 government 嘅注意力。去睇入香港，去幫香港人啊，即係好似 piano 嗰啲嘢咧，全部嗰啲嘢咧，即係佢係有好大嘅係咯幫助。I don't want to take too much of your time, but let me just draw to a conclusion by saying a little bit briefly about what we in Hong Kong Watch will go on fighting for. Basically, we believe there are 3 things that are needed. Firstly, we need targeted sanctions on officials in the Chinese and Hong Kong governments who are responsible for human rights violations and for destroying Hong Kong's freedoms. 即係佢就覺得喺 Hong Kong Watch 嚟講咧，佢就會有大概3樣嘢，佢會係想推動嘅。第一樣佢就係想制裁，即係制裁嗰啲違反人權。導致警暴嘅中共官員同埋港共官員嘅。Secondly, we need the international community and the entire free world to build a coalition to coordinate, to collaborate, to work together to put pressure on China to stop the destruction of Hong Kong's freedoms.
第二樣嘢就係佢希望可以推動到國際社會、國際唔同嘅群體可以組成一個可以協調，可以幫助去製造壓力俾呢個港共嘅政府，去令到佢哋有所顧忌嘅。
And thirdly, we need assistance from our government in the UK and from other governments around the world for those Hong Kongers who need to get out of Hong Kong. Our objective should not be for Hong Kong people to flee Hong Kong, but the reality is increasing numbers of people do need to, and we need to coordinate a global response, not just for British national overseas status holders, although I welcome what the British government has offered there, but more is needed to help those who aren't BNOs, and also to help those who come to this country to settle, to address some of the challenges in our system, and to find a welcome here if they need it.
佢係想可以推動到國際上面會幫助呢個離開香港走難嘅香港人。雖然現實上嚟講，我哋係唔希望我哋香港人係要走難嘅，但係好現實層面係的確有好多香港人係需要離開香港去保持呢個有用之身。即係除咗呢一個 BNO 嘅持有者之外，佢亦都係好希望可以喺唔同嘅地方都可以幫到手啦。亦都可能令到一啲更加年輕係做 BNO 嘅香港市民都係有機會可以得到呢一個援助嘅。
But we also need the Hong Kong police to be called to account, and since that can't happen in Hong Kong itself, we need international action to hold an international independent inquiry and to place targeted sanctions on the Hong Kong police who have committed such atrocities against Hong Kong people.
最重要嘅，我哋就係要令到香港警察係會付出代價。我哋要去成立呢一個獨立調查委員會，係令到相關導致警暴嘅官員嘅警察、有份施暴嘅警察，佢哋會受到制裁，佢哋會受到應有嘅報應。
And most importantly, as the specific reason why we're gathered here tonight, I want to pay tribute to everybody who's been involved in the amazing creative work of creating this boat and the other artwork that we see around us. The most important thing that we call for tonight is for the 12 Hong Kong youth to be returned to Hong Kong. Yes, maybe to face whatever justice is applied in Hong Kong, but at least to be released from the mainland Chinese prison, to be given due process, to be given access to lawyers, to be given access to their families and the medical care that they need, and to be treated safely and for their well-being to be guaranteed.
好多謝今日大家喺嚟到呢度啦，大家都有付出好多，尤其是係負責製造呢啲好靚嘅藝術品嘅船啊，呢個畫嘅之類。但係今日最重要都係嗰12位香港嘅年輕人，佢哋被送中，我哋而家最希望嘅就係佢哋可以安全平安咁翻到香港，即使佢哋可能喺香港面對緊嘅係唔知咩嘅刑責，但係希望佢哋係可以最基本有佢哋需要嘅藥物，有佢哋需要嘅律師，可以見到佢哋屋企人，可以知道佢哋嘅安全，呢個真係最重要嘅。
So I want to wish every Hong Konger, and especially every person who is currently in prison or under arrest, the families of those who are detained, and most particularly the 12 Hong Kong youth and their families, the blessings and good wishes of Mid-Autumn Festival, the hopes for a better day tomorrow, and a commitment on my part to work for that day when everyone in Hong Kong can live once again with freedom and without fear.
喺呢度祝願所有香港嘅市民，所有可能係受到被捕人士或者甚至監禁緊嘅手足， 佢哋嘅屋企人，乃至呢12位嘅喺大陸俾人非法拘禁嘅12位年輕人，以及佢哋嘅家人，希望佢哋會會有一個平安嘅中秋。然後Benedict Rogers 亦都會盡佢自己能力，令到香港可能可以成為一個自由民主曾經嘅香港。
Yesterday, I saw a picture of a young student in Hong Kong in an MTR station reading the Apple Daily newspaper, surrounded by police. It cannot be a crime to read a newspaper on a station platform, and yet in Hong Kong, it's treated as a crime. In solidarity, I went to my local station in London with a copy of Apple Daily and took a photograph reading it to say that reading a newspaper is not a crime. And I will go on fighting and working for the day when people can read newspapers in Hong Kong safely and without fear and freely.
佢琴日就睇到喺呢個社交媒體度睇到啦，柱哥喺呢個太子站喺蘋果日報啊，佢就然後就俾成班狗圍住，佢就覺得一個社會係唔應該睇報紙而係需要俾狗圍嘅，咁所以佢嗰一日就拎住咗份蘋果報紙，然之後落咗去呢個倫敦嘅地鐵站度睇啦，咁就 post 咗上社交媒體，咁當然就冇狗圍佢啦。佢希望香港終有一日係可以回歸以前安全一個自由嘅社會，係睇報紙係唔會有人俾狗圍嘅。
So thank you for gathering here tonight. Thank you for inviting me to Manchester. Thank you to our friends who have interpreted for me. I'm sorry that I couldn't say everything I've said in Cantonese, but I'll learn more and I'll try better next time. But it's good to be with you. Let's work for the freedom of the 12 Hong Kong youths. Let's continue to fight for the freedom of Hong Kong, and I will be with you all the way. Gong Hong Kong, see you in that day.
咁佢就好多謝大家出席啦，亦都好多謝大家邀請佢啦，好多謝啲熱心嘅香港市民去籌辦呢一個活動啦。佢好唔好意思就係可能佢冇唔可以用廣東話咁去講晒佢自己意思出嚟啦，咁但係佢會盡力嘅。咁然之後佢亦都希望大家